You want to continue? Yep. So I'll go to PowerPoint and put it in presenter mode.
Yeah.
Okay, is that working?
Looks
Yeah,
good
I
to
can
me,
see
Dennis.
it.
Yeah, I'll just check.
Everybody still there?
Yes. Yeah.
Still here, Dennis.
Okay, so a couple of minutes to go. So if I, oh, don't want that one. There we go. So at 10 o'clock in a couple.
Oh, you're on mute, Dennis.
You need to mute now because everything you're saying is going live.
So I need to mute.
Yes, everybody needs to mute up until 10 o'clock. Dennis, you're not actually. The presentation is not showing in presenter mode. It is just showing. Oh yes, it is now. Sorry, it is now. Hi, Dennis, you're muted.
Right, is that better? Yeah. Back to the right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this innovation feature presentation at the Water Equipment Show. My name's Dennis Goodlad, and I will be moderating this particular presentation, which will be made by Liam MacInnes and Darren Hollins, both from Severn Trent Water, and it will describe the pump strategy for the AMP7 investment programme in Severn Trent. So over to you, Liam and Darren. Please load your presentation and take it away.
Thanks, Dennis. Give me 2 seconds. I'll pull my presentation up. Let me know if you can see that. Is that sharing?
Yes, yeah, I can see it.
Great, thank you. So thanks everyone for taking the time to listen into our presentation. As Dennis introduced me, I'm Liam MacInnes. So I am the category manager for Severn Trent, and I have responsibility for all procurement on our frameworks for pumps and statutory assets, and also all on-off large capital expenditure. So just jumping onto the content slide. So what we're going to cover off today is a brief overview of Severn Trent in our area, a high-level view of our AMP7 and our AMP7 plan, overview of Severn Trent's pump strategy, our view of failure on Archiemedes screw pumps and an open question to attendees, and finally, we'll finish off with a review of our design standards strategy and levelling up as an expert client. So, moving on to the next slide. Who are Severn Trent? Severn Trent Water is one of the largest of 10 regulated water and sewage companies in England and Wales. We provide high quality services to more than 4.3 million homes and businesses in the Midlands. Hafren Dyfed is coming together of Dee Valley Water and Severn Trent to form a new service for our customers in Wales. Severn Trent provides water and wastewater services to the proportion of England, and Hafren Dyfed provides water services to parts of Wales. On the map to the right, you'll see the areas in white show the boundaries for Severn Trent, and the areas in green show the boundaries for Hafren Dyfed. So what is AMP7? Water industry has 5-year investment cycles. AMP7, which is the Asset Maintenance Plan 7, started in April 2020 and is the 7th cycle since privatisation of Severn Trent. The regulator Ofwat reviews our plans to set the price that our customers will pay and hence how much we can invest back into our assets. Our AMP7 strategy has been well received and received fast track status, which gave us a head start to look into the projects that we wanted to invest into and our key priorities moving into year 1 and now year 2 of our investment cycle. So what are the key drivers for AMP7? Resilience. So ensuring we have effective, reliable, efficient and available assets. So that's looking at our approach to maintenance, repair, refurbishment of existing assets, and also our investment plans for assets going forwards. Cost savings and TOTEX. As always, we need to do more for less, work smarter and find ways to deliver outputs more effectively. This focus is on both CapEx and operational spend, ensuring our assets have the lowest whole life cost, TOTEX, throughout the duration of the asset's life cycle. Flexibility and agility. Our asset base is varied based on process, type, age, manufacturer and location. Hence, a one-size-fits-all approach will not deliver the savings and service that we need for our customers. Our ambition is to reduce unproductive spend, particularly fee on fee. Hence, we need a diverse supply chain with the right blend of skills and experience to do this. And finally, CMEX, a new customer service and experience measure. The regulator will measure and rank us and you based on our customer interactions and performance. So it's really key if you're doing any work on our behalf that you're conscious of any interactions you have with our customers. So delving into our pump category strategy. So these are the 5 key areas that I'm looking into for my strategy going forwards and for Severn Trent and Hafren Dyfed as businesses. So focus on condition monitoring technologies available on the market. At the moment, we're using vibration and temperature monitoring across some of our critical assets, but is there anything new in the market that we can use? Is there types of technologies that would benefit particular assets and ensure that we aren't running on a run-to-fail approach for some of our asset bases, and we have a proactive approach on maintenance. Calculation of the real cost of pump failures and implications for operations. So when we realise when a type of asset goes down, so even if it's a small pump in a pumping station, it could be critical to the process and have massive knock-on effects on our ODIs and on the operational teams. So we're working hard to try and figure out how is that cost realistically built up and how can we be more intuitive and intelligent about the way we calculate the real cost of failure for all of our assets. Identification of new technologies to limit damage during extreme weather events. Looking back in 2020, we did have quite a lot of flooding and unfortunately that led to damage to some of our equipment and some of our supplier equipment. So in areas where we're likely to be affected by flooding, we're trying to look at different types of technology and equipment we can use. For example, overland pumps. If we have to install overland pumps due to flood risk, can we use sealed units? Is there sealed units available out in the market that won't be affected if the area floods? drive forward rationalisation of our pumping assets. So we've done quite a lot of work on this already. For our sewage submersible pumps, we're driving forward rationalisation to particular suppliers at the minute. And we're looking at how we can do that for other areas of the business and different types of assets to ensure that we've got a consistent asset base. We've got the right types of spares stored and the right types of pumps on quick lead times, so we limit the effect on our operational teams. Finally, stock holding on critical assets and spares, eliminating the need for individual stocks. So at the minute, a number of our operational teams hold squirrel stocks for particular types of pumps and assets. So we're working hard with operations to identify why they hold them at the minute, what we can do to support them to make sure that they don't need to hold them squirrel stocks anymore, and bringing that all back in-house so we have our regional distribution centres holding the right spares, and the stock is being replenished by our MRP system on a consistent basis, and we are reducing the amount of spend on spares across each area. At this point, I just wanted to flag to all you guys on the call, if you're interested in any tendering opportunities, please make sure that you're registered on the Find a Tender service, which is the new government e-notification service for all tenders following Brexit. So that system went live at 11 PM on the 31st of December 2020, and we'll now be using that for all tendering opportunities. So just delving further into some of the issues that we've experienced and key areas that I'm focusing on improvements at the minute is Archiemedes screw pump failures. So across Severn Trent, we currently have 102 ageing Archiemedes screw pumps, which are located on 37 different sites. There is approximately 21 different types of gearboxes on these assets. We experienced quite a few failures on the top and bottom bearings of the assets, and we have approximately 19 different types of motors. So my open question to you guys is, have you dealt with any issues like this with other companies? Have you developed an asset strategy for similar types of assets with other companies? Do you have condition monitoring technologies available over and above the usual vibration testing and temperature monitoring that could reduce the asset failures on these? And do you have any project case studies on similar assets that you could share with us, as we'd be very interested to see what you've done with other customers. At this point, I'm going to pass over to Darren Hollins to talk through design.
Good morning, everybody. Yeah, my name is Darren Hollins. I'm the mechanical technical lead in design excellence within Severn Trent, and I wanted to just kind of finish rounding off the circle that Liam's been talking about there and sort of explaining how our design approach has changed to align with Liam's strategy there for pumps and sort of standardization. So for those that don't know, Severn Trent have taken design in-house during AMP7. So that doesn't mean we're doing everything, but we're trying to upskill ourselves as the expert clients. Obviously, we want to own the design a little bit more and actually own the risk therein. So hopefully we can undertake our own designs, tell the contractor what we want, take that risk ourselves, but hopefully eliminate any sort of miscommunication in the supply chain that you normally see on sort of design projects. So this has obviously involved a change in contract. So we're following a new contract conditions in AMP7 under NEC 4. There's a number of different lots within that contract, which I won't bore you all with now. But obviously, depending on the contract, depends on the way that we'll deliver that piece of work. But the simple premise is written down in red there, really. So if you were building your own house, would you just give a builder £100,000 and say, I'll see you in 6 weeks, and then come back and you've got a straw house with a bit of a door hacked in the front? Or would you say to the builder, I want a brick building, I want a slate roof, I want 2 windows on the front, 2 windows on the back, I want a front door, back door, so on and so forth. So we're just trying to emphasize really that we're trying to have a little bit more say in what we want and ensure that we end up with the right assets for Severn Trent over the longer term future. Could you skip on for me, Liam? Okay, so what's kind of behind this approach? So I saw a presentation delivered by a colleague which really resonated with me, which was all about the humble 3-pin plug and the way that was developed, and now it's standardized and everyone knows what it is. You can pick them up for pennies, but they're all made to the same standard. They're all reliable, usable. You can use them anywhere in the UK. And we were challenged with, can we kind of take that same approach? It's obviously more complicated with pumps and pumping systems because they vary quite widely, but we've tried to take that as inspiration and see if we can take that forward. So it's a 2-stage approach, as Liam said. So we have our frameworks, which Liam's managing and obviously put into place. So for example, he talked about the submersible framework there, where we've now got a standardized range. And then alongside that, we've implemented a complete standards review within Severn Trent. So that's involved the production of new mechanical and electrical specifications, the updating of all of our design manuals, and then some internal training documents as well around CDM, around pump selection, basically trying to upskill our engineers because we recognise that we've taken a load of very clever people on. Now we're trying to give them that experience of being designers so they make sensible decisions as we move forward throughout the AMP. Do you want to skip on, Liam? Thank you. So previously, you guys will have seen that we've got mechanical electrical specifications. What we've tried to move towards is the full adoption of the WIMS specifications. So this is obviously a rolling program. We've been doing this for over 12 months now, and we've still got a bit of a way to go, but we have adopted all of the WIMS pump specifications. And the idea behind that was we wanted to standardize our approach so that ourselves, our consultants, our contractors are all approaching the supply chain with the same information. Obviously, most companies are familiar or use the WIMS specifications already, but then there's always little nuances that are sort of bespoke to each company. We've tried where we can to minimize that so that hopefully we're requesting standard assets from the supply chain all the time. And not only that, but the information that the supply chain receive, so your flights, your Grundfos and all the other pump manufacturers, they're going to see the same thing. They're going to see a completed data sheet. It's going to be really clear what we want, and everyone should hopefully start to get comfortable with each other and what we're asking for, what we're receiving. Within those specifications, we have got a section for it's called a supplier specific addendum. And that's just where we've already got a framework in place. There might be a particular nuance with a pump manufacturer that doesn't quite sit on the WIMS. It's an alternative or a feature or something, or it's under an alternative name. So we've just clarified it within that addendum so that all the information's held in one place. All our engineers can access that information, and hopefully that should bake in a sort of standard practice approach across our business. You skip on for me, Liam. Thank you. Okay, so alongside that, we've recognised that, as I say, and as Liam said, we want to sort of maximise that intelligent client function. So we're trying hard to upskill our engineers at the minute and provide them with the tools that they need to do their jobs, obviously. So we've produced a new pump selection design manual. So that design manual covers exactly what we're looking for when you undertake a pump selection. So I mentioned on yesterday's call, very recently, I reviewed a pumping station where the selection had actually been undertaken on a single duty point. So they'd not produced a system curve, they'd not overlaid any pump curves, they just calculated a single duty point, looked at the pump curve and said, yeah, it does that, and then submitted that for selection. When I reviewed that, obviously, I did a quick check to just superimpose the static levels, and instantly the pump didn't work. I didn't have to go any further than that really, but the pump fell off the end of its curve when the static level changed. So it just highlighted to me that maybe some things that were all classed as basic, a bit of bad practice has slipped in some places. So we've tried to outline that in this new design manual. So we expect a high, a medium and a low KS value to be used to develop a pump envelope. We're expected to look at the full range of static heads to ensure the pump operating conditions are suitable over its entire life cycle and all of its operating range. sounds dead basic, but as I say, I've seen that it's not happening. So we've clarified all that. We've said what we want. We're training all our engineers to follow the same approach, and then we've produced a new pump selection tool in-house, none of which is rocket science. It's all just standard stuff, but it allows our engineers the functionality to look at all of those different options on graphs at the push of a button, so they can turn on different system curves for statics, variable speed drives, all that kind of thing, and overlay all that information on a single graph, or they can turn curves on and off to view different information in more detail. It's quite a powerful tool, hopefully, to allow the engineers to make the correct technical choice, and then obviously link right the way back into Liam's submersible piece, where we've got the standard range, so we can make the right selection on the tool, look at our standard selections that we've got on the framework and match the two together to ensure we're getting the right pump set going forward. What we're hoping is, again, that this will see a sort of consistent approach from all of our engineers, and all of our supply chain should start seeing those consistent outputs from us. Everything is, we hope that everything runs to a smoother relationship between all parties. Everyone's clear about what they're doing and what they want. You can flick on, Liam. Okay, so the first question is that a perfect solution? You can probably tell from the unicorn and Nessie there that no, it's not. It doesn't really exist, I don't think, a perfect solution. We've still got a procurement strategy that's incentivizes delivery partners by CapEx. I don't think that'll ever change the world over. So what we've got to do is find that nice compromise between the CapEx solutions and then obviously the whole life cost operation. So what we've tried to do is ensure that all of our engineers have got the right tools and the right information so that they can look at the right solutions, and then obviously that gets married up with the sort of CapEx challenges that we always face. There is no perfect answer to this, I appreciate that, but what we're trying to work towards is, like I say, empowering our engineers to make the right decisions and drive that knowledge through the business. Skip on, Liam. Okay, and that's the presentation. Thank you.
Yeah, so just at this point, Dennis, if there's any questions in the queue,
yeah,
answer them.
Okay. Dennis here again. Thank you very much indeed for that, Liam and Darren. There are some questions in the queue, and I'll go through them as they've arrived. First of all, is there an opex implication with rationalisation, i.e., are you potentially selecting less efficient pumps to meet your rationalised pump strategy?
So I
can answer that if you want.
No worries. If you want to go first, then Darren.
Yeah. Okay. So yes, I understand where you're coming from with that question. Potentially, yes, is the answer, I guess. But in reality, our rationalised range covers submersible pump sets from, correct me on this one, Liam, I think it's 0 to 70 kilowatts or thereabouts. So it's the small power utilisation pump sets. So a marginal drop in percentage efficiency is overruled by the sort of effectiveness of our spares regime and the maintenance and the consistency that we can provide with our operation staff having that reduced asset base. And not only that, obviously the sort of commercial implications that Liam can leverage from having that rationalised range. So we wouldn't look to rationalise obviously high utilisation, high power consuming pump sets, because that wouldn't be efficient, exactly as the question sort of intimates. In that situation, you're going to be selecting a pump that's not ideal for the duty and burning power going forward. So it's applying this standardised, rationalised approach where applicable to leverage the best for Severn Trent, really. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you for that. The next question is, where does carbon reduction fit into the AMP7 drivers?
I'll pick up on that one then. So on the AMP7, the carbon reduction team, we have a set up sustainability team at the moment, and we are currently developing a carbon reduction tool to look at the overall cost of the use of certain types of equipment and where we should be proactively replacing assets for the benefit of both the energy management side and the carbon impact that we have as an organisation. As some of you may already be aware, Severn Trent are aiming for a net zero carbon goal by 2030, so we're planning to be completely carbon neutral as an organisation. So there is a lot of work going on behind the scenes with our new sustainability team that's recently been set up, who are looking at all the different types of equipment that we're using. Our energy management team, which are dedicated to looking at our existing asset base, where we've got aged equipment which is running pretty inefficiently or ineffectively. Should we proactively be replacing that for the drive of the assets themselves being more effective and efficient, reducing the carbon emissions from us as a company and utility?
I can just add to that, Dennis, as well. On the capital programme, for every project that we've undertaken since January this year, we undertake a full carbon assessment. So Severn Trent have got a carbon tool, and every option that we look at on our capital scheme, options within projects, I should say, they're all assessed for carbon embodied and operational carbon, and that goes into the option selection matrix along with cost and whether or not obviously you've hit the project drives and stuff to form part of the overall solution selection.
Good. Well, thank you for those answers. The next question is the pump selection tool ever in conflict with what the pump manufacturers might suggest? And I guess if so, how do you resolve that?
So I don't think it should be. The pump selection tool really it's a technical tool, so it's calculating more than anything all of your system information and generating your system curve. We would still then go out for an inquiry to the pump suppliers, pull the information back, and then reinsert that back into the pump selection tool. So, for example, the tool allows you to compare multiple pump sets. So we could go to all four of our framework providers for submersibles, for example, and we could put a selection in from each and then compare them and work out which one is the most effective to hit the duty. So there shouldn't be any conflict between us and the supply chain. But I mean, if there was questions or something around that, I'm happy to take them offline and sort of demonstrate how we're planning on using the tool.
Good, thank you. A question here from Sarah. Which internal stakeholders are consulted about your WIMS amendments?
Okay, yeah, that's a good question. So we have a standards team within Severn Trent, and obviously they own the standards, but there's also what we call communities of practice in Severn Trent. So we would go to, in this instance, the pump community of practice or pump COP, and would get their buy-in to the standards updates as well. That COP includes members from operations, maintenance, commercial, the technical teams. It's quite a wide base, so there's quite active sort of communication with a wide variety of stakeholders really to engage with any standard update.
Good, thank you. You talked about strategic spares holding. I'm just wondering how you strike the balance between what you hold in your own stores and what the framework suppliers hold as readily available spares. How do you strike that balance?
So from our end, at the minute, we hold strategic spares in some of our critical assets for failures. So if we've got some large bits of equipment, if they go down, they have a massive knock-on impact on our process options. We'll consider holding a strategic spare for that. But the overall drive is the rationalisation of our asset base to be good lead times on equipment. So rather than having equipment that's on a couple of weeks lead times, we're managing to rationalise our range and get that equipment down to days. So it means that if the equipment fails, we don't actually always need to have a strategic spare sitting and waiting, which costs us money and costs us time and energy to maintain and make it still in good condition for when required to use. So by improving our rational and improving levels that we have on the fix, we can ensure that the risk and issues caused to operations is mitigated, and the number of strategic spares and stock that we have to hold is minimised, so we don't have to hold much in our distribution centres.
Thanks. You talked about the understanding the real cost of failures, and I guess that involves looking at the criticality of various assets. I'm just wondering if there's any surprises or interesting revelations that's come out of the work that you've done in that area.
So there has been a few things. So we've got an asset care team which is currently working on that and looking at what's the cost on particular asset failures. I think it's helped us to categorise the cost of our assets when they go down. So even though they might not be the biggest assets out there, you could look at rotating biological contactor, and they go down, we need to tanker, so you've got your cost from tankering, and that's a massive impact on operational budgets. So even though it might just be one small gearbox that is 5 kit, for example, and when it fails, it has a massive impact on our operational compliance. We could be a discharge, like a non-compliant discharge, and fined from the EA because of that. And then we have to get the tankers in to tanker out any of the waste and get it treated elsewhere. So I think it's certainly opened my eyes into the fact that it's not as clear cut as the big bits of kit are the areas to focus on. There's also some small equipment out there which we need to invest time and energy into.
Great. Well, one final question from me. Some years ago, I was very briefly involved in the Birmingham Resilience Project, and it was a big pumping station to abstract water from the River Severn. Just wondering if that sort of came to fruition, and if it's now been commissioned and used in anger.
Yes, is the answer, Dennis. So you're referring to the raw water pumping station down near Bewdley.
Yes.
Yeah, pumping up to Franklin. Yeah, so that pumping station is in operation. Yeah, delivering river water across to Franklin. It's actually being used at the minute to commission the work that went on at Franklin as part of that same programme. Yeah. So there was a full treatment works upgrade there for the treatment of river water, and yes, that's all up and running and going.
Well, maybe you'll come back next year and do a nice presentation about that for us.
Yes, we certainly could do. Yeah, plenty to talk about on that scheme.
Would be of interest. Right. Well, that brings us very nicely to the end of your allocated time slot. So I'd just like to say thank you to Liam and to Darren for the presentation. We've had over 70 people attending this presentation. So obviously it's a very popular one. So thank you to everyone who's attended. And please enjoy the rest of the day's presentations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.